Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you, and today I have the WE Knives 703. This knife was sent to me by Zelric for review, and I was really happy that he did. I've been wanting to check out one of these more budget-friendly WE knives for quite a while, and so when he reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a couple and I'd be willing to send you one to check out, I was really happy to hear that. By the way, if you are not familiar with Zelric's channel, I'll put a link to his review of this knife down below, and if you're watching this and if you're enjoying my content, you'll probably like his as well. There's some differences there, but I think it's worth certainly checking out, so go on over there if you have a chance. This, of course, is the sort of more budget offering from WE. So instead of the S35VN and titanium frame lock, this is a G10 with D2 steel. Still titanium clip, titanium hardware and back spacer, still ball bearing pivot. That's pretty well done. I have complained about some WE knives that the detent is a little soft, but this one seems pretty good. So let's go ahead and give you a size and weight, and then we'll kind of get into the various features here. So 8.5 inches overall. 3 3/4 inch blade, 4 3/4 inch handle. The weight on this guy is a little hefty, but certainly not too much. 4.94 ounces. No milling on the liners there, which probably would lighten it up a bit, but you know what, not the end of the world, guys. And honestly, if I was designing this knife, I probably wouldn't mill the liners either, because it's still under 5 ounces, which is more than comfortable for anyone to carry around. So no complaints on size and weight. Oh, it's a little over, by the way, 1/2 inch thick, which does make it feel a little bit bulky in certain pants. Blade here is D2 steel. So let's go ahead and check out this blade. We've got a drop point blade with a hollow grind, really nice and thin behind the edge, great slicer. Now it does thicken up a little bit at the point. So the edge thickness is not consistent throughout, but that's not the end of the world. You would notice it, by the way, you can see it there if I kind of turn it this way. And you would certainly notice if you put this on like a fixed angle sharpener, you'd get a little more metal showing here at the tip. Again, not the end of the world. It's still very functional. And D2 steel, of course, is really good. Good edge retention. And this seems to be fairly well heat treated. I haven't messed with it because it's not my knife. But I have done some cutting with it and haven't noticed any issues with it becoming dull. So that's always a good thing. I do also like the fact that they kept the width of the metal the width of the blade quite a ways out, so that I can get my thumb out here and have somewhere comfortable for it to go. I've complained about that before on knives with a swedge, but this swedge is not super deep, like they're not cutting a lot, so it still keeps most of the width there. One thing I will point out at this point is that D2 is not something to really worry about. I've always had really good luck with mine, no issues with rusting. But just full disclosure, it's not a stainless steel, okay? So you kind of maybe put oil on it once in a while and that should be fine. So yeah, I think the blade here is definitely a good blade. I have no big issue with it whatsoever. And I do really like the look of it, although I will say I wish the black was on the flats rather than the bevels. Just because when you're cutting, there's a good chance, or if you are going to scratch your blade, it's going to be somewhere down here. So now that scratch is going to stand out more because of the black wash, rather than if it was on the flats where likely you wouldn't put any marks on it. Let's see here. Where do we want to go next? Oh yeah, lockup and deployment. So this is a liner lock, as you can probably already see. Nested liners, which I think is really a nice touch. The action on this is really nice, guys. So it's a ball bearing pivot. I will say this, it's a little sharp, okay? And this is something that knife makers seem to consistently do. They kind of, instead of, to me, it would make sense to go, okay, where's a person's finger most likely to land? And let's make that spot flat. But instead, knife makers seem to consistently do the opposite. They find, where's a person's finger going to land? And let's make that a point. And I'm like, no, if I'm going to push on something, I don't want it pointed and sharp. I want it kind of flat, maybe a little bit of jimping to give me some grip. Those things would be a nice touch. But for some reason, I'll throw in a couple of other examples here. So right where I want to put my finger, again, it's a point. Let's see. Here's another one. Right where I want to put my finger, it's a point. It just seems to be something that they do over and over again and can't kind of clue in here that there's a better way of doing those flippers. Other than that, the action is really good. The detent is really good. It's definitely, you know, a drop close knife. Really, and we, by the way, tends to consistently do that. The liners are nice and thick, which do inspire some confidence. I do have one issue here. See if I can show you this. I'm trying to catch the light just right, guys. Maybe you can see it there. The liner is so early on lockup that it's not even the whole liner that's engaged with the blade, and I do prefer to see the full liner making contact with that blade. Again, not the end of the world, but it's something, you know, I'd like to see that liner just engaged a little bit further in the lockup. Otherwise though, guys, I've got to tell you, it is really well done. You know, no side to side play, no up and down. It's very solid, very confidence inspiring, plus fun to play with, okay? And that's one of the things we're going to care about is, you know, yeah, this knife unlocks easily, it flips out well. And so if you're the guy who wants to sit on the couch flipping your knife, no issue whatsoever. Let's talk about the handle now. 3D Machined G10, very comfortable in hand, that nice deep choil with the flipper tab. You're not going to go up on that blade. By the way, the decorative cuts here are also jimping, and they are just sharp enough to do something. They could maybe be a little more aggressive, but not too much more. They're pretty much in a nice spot there. I do like the option to be able to get my thumb out here on the back of the blade. I will say I don't like this. So notice this distance here. I like to be able to get this finger as close to the cutting edge as possible. So here I've got about a ½ an inch. Now it's not the end of the world, and there are other knives that are even worse, but it's just one small point that I would like to have, you know, been able to get a little bit closer to that cutting edge. Although let me say this, they kind of make up for it by the fact that I can get my thumb out here and have a good, nice resting spot for it. So kind of a, you know, if I take something away, I can give something back there as well. Proprietary screws, which again, not the end of the world. I wish they were just plain Torx screws, but they're trying to differentiate themselves, and I get that. It is a nice touch that they do keep, or that they do give you the tool that you need to mess with this. So that's really nice. It was even nicer before when they used to send replacement hardware. That was really cool, but they had problems with people taking their knife apart and not being able to get it back together. So they had to stop doing that, which is kind of too bad. Let's see here. Oh, there is a good lanyard hole there. No problem there at all. Titanium backspacer. That's the construction is, you know, a tie backspacer, which is fine. It's mostly open construction. I've got to say I'm really liking the nested liners. They're painted black, which means they almost disappear. You could almost look at this knife and go, man, maybe they're just solid G10 scales. But no, they're not. There's liners in there. They're just really well done in terms of fit and finish. Overall, guys, I've got to say, very comfortable knife. Single position clip, but let me say this while we're talking about this milled clip. I feel like a broken record here, but again, this is another milled titanium clip that works really well, okay? I have no issue with this clip whatsoever. It goes in and out of pocket really, really nicely. And I don't know, I don't seem to have the problems that some people do with the milled titanium clips. Now that we've gotten through all of that stuff, let's bring in some comparisons. We already had this guy, but this of course is similar construction, 3D Machined G10, stainless steel liners, not of course a ball bearing pivot. This is a washer pivot, but nice knife. And of course, much, much bigger, by the way. Great knife, 0 tolerance, 0-200. Let's bring in a ZT really quickly that's maybe a little more comparable. This guy is visiting for just a little bit of TLC. This is the 0350, and when I reviewed this knife, I said it was too small for me, and I still feel that way. You can kind of see why that is in this picture right here. But again, good knife, pretty heavy. Okay, certainly much heavier than the Wii knife, but a very popular knife, so people can kind of get a sense for the size based on this guy. Let's see. Oh, another really popular knife here before we get into some others. Para 2, lots of similarities here, right? Nested stainless steel liners. This happens to be the S35VN version, but normally this would be S30V. Liner, well, compression lock, which in terms of the weight and design is sort of like a liner lock, although the actual mechanics are totally different. But that gives you again an idea of size on this knife. By the way, I should point out the blade to handle ratio on this is really nice, and that's really well contrasted by this knife, which has a terrible blade to handle ratio. You can see you get a lot more cutting edge in a smaller blade, or I mean in a smaller handle with the Wii knife there. What else have I got? Let's see. Cold Steel American Lawman. This guy, again, better steel, similar construction, although there's no liners here. I wouldn't, you know, that's not an issue for me, but maybe one for you. This guy, of course, is going to be a little bit cheaper, and that's something to consider, guys. I feel like CTS XHP is a better steel than D2, not necessarily performance-wise, but it is more stainless, so that might be something to consider. Also, if you're looking for sort of a high-end G10 liner lock, the Lion Steel Kerr would be one you may want to consider. Again, this is a very thick knife in pocket, even thicker than this one. This guy is kind of a short, fat knife, which probably is going to put some people off, but I actually really like it. Let's see, let's finish off with a couple of Benchmades. The Benchmade Freak, which of course is a knife you've seen recently reviewed here, and I do like this knife, very lightweight. Now I will say, you know, in terms of sort of a hard use option, I would definitely lean toward the Wii over the Freak if I was really going to put some hefty use into that. Now, maybe then you'd want to compare the Benchmade Contigo, which, by the way, again, similar construction, 3D G10 or machine G10. I don't know if I'd technically call this 3D machined. It's kind of contoured, I guess. Stainless steel liners. The blade steel on this guy is M390, of course, which is significantly different, but similar construction. And so there's one more comparison for you. Okay. I don't have, by the way, any other Wiis to compare. Kind of wish I did. I've got one on the way, but it's going to be too long. This one will already be sent back to Zell before that one arrives. So overall, guys, I do think this is a really nice knife. I like the design, the fit and finish, the quality, all of that is very good. The materials are nice and they're nicely done. Okay, so for $100, there's a lot of things that you're getting here that I have to give credit to Wii knives. You know, the titanium hardware and clip and backspacer and stuff, the nicely contoured G10, it is really nicely done. Fit and finish is phenomenal. I would say, yeah, they changed the materials on these to get the price point down, but they did not change the level of quality, the level of fit and finish that they're achieving with their full titanium models, okay? So, all of that stuff, you know, if you really appreciate a well-made tool, I think you're going to find this very appealing. And of course, the price is better. Now, I will say, you know, the D2 steel is, you know, I'd like to see something a little better in there. Maybe charge me $120 and put S30V in here or something. I don't know. Again, not the end of the world, but just a consideration. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will talk to you soon.